Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and today I'm going to be talking about the latest movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You might have heard of it, Captain Marvel. If you didn't know, I'm a huge fan of the MCU, and I love all of the interconnected stories and lore between all of the movies. I am very excited for Avengers Endgame, releasing in a little over a month. Oh my god, it's so soon. So naturally, I had to go see Captain Marvel in order to see her origin story and see how she ties into the greater MCU, since it has been said she is going to become the face of the entire franchise in the coming years. Of course, this video review will contain spoilers for Captain Marvel, so if you want my spoiler-free review, the trailers suck and the movie does not. Now let's jump right into it with some of my positives about the movie. My favorite thing about this movie is that the origin story itself is very different, and it's actually a really cool way to tell the origin story of Captain Marvel in a different way. It certainly doesn't feel like it's reusing the Marvel formula, like some people say, like Iron Man and Doctor Strange are very similar, same with Ant-Man a bit. So I like that this movie tells the story of Captain Marvel in a very different way. We technically see her in the beginning of the movie almost as if we're looking at Iron Man from the end of Iron Man 3 or Iron Man 2 or 1. We're essentially meeting Captain Marvel kind of at the end of her origin story in a way, but she's been completely wiped out from her memory about it. Or all of that's been completely wiped out. And I love the way that we kind of rediscover it by returning to Earth, or she's returning to Earth, and she sees all that she had a life there, and she's rediscovering her past, and of course the conspiracy, I guess, of sorts with the Kree. It certainly makes the origin feel very different, unique, and one of my favorite things about this movie. Another thing I really like about this movie is actually Captain Marvel herself. I quite like this portrayal of Captain Marvel. Now, to be fair, I never really had experience with any other portrayals of Captain Marvel, but I actually like this character. The character is witty, she's funny. I really like the sarcastic humor, because I kind of have sarcastic humor as well, so I kind of like the humor she has, that it's not really like, haha, get it, funny joke, that made no sense, but it's more like, you know, kind of that quick, witty humor in like the middle of a battle or something. That's really cool, and I actually really like all the other characters as well. I certainly like seeing Coulson because I've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so it's like, look, Coulson's back on a giant screen. It's been a while since you've been on a big screen, hasn't it, Agent Coulson? But it was also really cool to see Samuel L. Jackson return as Nick Fury, and it was cool to see him in this bigger role, since usually he doesn't have like the biggest of roles in the Marvel movies. I think his biggest role was just in the Avengers, and even then, he of course was overshadowed by the other Avengers in that movie. So it's really cool to see him essentially be the secondary character of a movie with both of his eyes, and it was cool to see him more exuberate that Samuel L. Jackson like kind of humor and vibe that Nick Fury doesn't have, since he's more that, you know, cold, collected super spy. And I also really liked Talos, our main, or actually before I get to Talos, I do like Yon-Rogg, Jude Law's Yon-Rogg. He is, I guess, technically the villain of this movie, and I do like his character as well. His kind of like, it seems like his kind of challenge, how do I phrase this? His conflict, there we go. His inner conflict between like deciding whether or not to obey the Kree, and like control Captain Marvel, or Veers, I guess, from his perspective, or control Veers, or let Veers, like he's friends with her, and just let her kind of like be herself, I guess. I kind of like that conflict there, but I especially like Talos, because it seemed like, I was very surprised. I thought the Kree were going to be, not the Kree, I thought the Skrull were going to be our main villains, and as I'll get into later, I thought the Kree were also going to be the main villains, but I like that the Skrulls were given a crazy twist, and they're not really evil at all. Like, I thought they'd still be evil, but here they're just, honestly, they were just fending for themselves, and that's why they had this war with the Kree. Like, Talos isn't really a villain once he reveals himself. He becomes one of our main heroes in the movie, and the Kree end up being villains, which I'll get into later. But I just really like that Talos and the Kree, or not the Kree, Talos and the Skrulls are not bad alien people. That made no sense. They're not bad people. They're just trying to fend for themselves. So I thought that was pretty cool. And lastly, my favorite thing about the movie, or one of my favorite things about the movie, is its connection to the greater MCU, since it is an MCU film, but since this is a prequel, it can definitely root itself in the universe more than some of the other movies can, and I certainly like that here. For example, bringing back the Tesseract is a simple maneuver, one that I really didn't see coming, and I think it works well. Again, it ties it into Captain America, two of the Iron Man movies, Avengers, of course. It works really well. And I also love the fact that Carol inspired the Avengers, the idea of the Avengers, which I kind of knew coming into the movie, but I think it was so cool that Nick Fury's like, oh, well, if she's gone, we need more people to protect the Earth from villains like the Kree and the Skrulls when they still thought they were evil. So I like the idea of him trying to now get like more like Captain Marvel, and I also kind of like the little piece of lore that she inspired the name. He just looks over at the picture, sees her call sign was Avenger, and then he's like, huh, maybe I should rename this team I'm trying to form. So I know some people might not like that, and I personally wouldn't like it if in future movies she starts bragging like, oh, I inspired you guys because I'm the original Avenger, kind of, sort of. Captain America's the original Avenger, but like she inspired the name. So if she starts bragging about that in future movies, I kind of wouldn't really like it anymore. But I think it would, like, hopefully she's like accepting, or she realizes like she inspired this team, so she's kind of like the veteran here, I guess, kind of, sort of. So hopefully she acknowledges that fact, and that is why she shows up, or something like that. I'm excited to see these interactions with her character, with the other characters in Endgame, because speaking of Endgame, that mid-credit scene was literally just a trailer for Avengers Endgame. They straight up just pulled a clip out of Endgame, but like, I don't care if they literally just pulled a clip out of Endgame. We literally have a total of like 3 minutes of footage for Endgame, so I mean, very excited for Endgame if you couldn't tell. So now I'll get into some of the negatives relating to Captain Marvel. The biggest one for me is just the movie felt this isn't the biggest one, this is more of like the nitpickiest one, is that the movie felt just a little bit predictable, and it's just mostly due to the fact that I'm an MCU nerd and I saw a bunch of videos about theories on Captain Marvel before I saw the movie. Because I saw the twist with the Kree being evil coming, and I totally knew about the stuff with Goose being the Flurgan, or whatever it's called, and there's like another twist that I couldn't see coming, but that I did see coming. There was definitely some stuff I saw coming in the movie, but that's not really this movie's fault. The trailers did a good job of hiding a lot of stuff. It's just mostly due to me being an MCU nerd and looking up a bunch of stuff. Another negative that I would say is actually a fault in the movie is the acting, and don't get angry at me. As I said, I like Captain Marvel's character in this movie. I just kind of feel like sometimes Carol's behavior is just a bit flat and stale, and I do appreciate that they explained it by saying it's because the Kree are trying to suppress their emotions, but I just feel like it's a bit strange here, especially too with her witty dialogue. And speaking of the dialogue also felt a bit strange at sometimes in the movie as well. And something else that felt weird was some of the humor. Now, I know that the MCU exists with this humor kind of always not thrown in, but there is humor always in the MCU, and I've accepted that. In fact, it's one of my favorite things about it. But I just felt like Goose specifically exists for getting a laugh out of the audience every time, and it's not really the funniest thing sometimes. Like, sometimes Goose is just like, he's just being Goose, and they're trying to be like, look how funny he is, it's a cat. And two, with like the interaction between Fury, Talos, and with Goose, where they're talking about what Talos can turn into, like a filing cabinet, that felt really, really weird. So I know there's gonna be jokes in the MCU movies, and I accept that, I look forward to that, but here it just didn't feel entirely working. And the biggest kind of humor, like mix of all of this, honestly, is the eye patch and Nick Fury losing his eye. As I've said before, I think I said it in the previous Power Rangers review, I'm a stickler for continuity. Not a stickler, but I'm kind of like guy who's like, excuse me, that's a different color in this shot, so the movie's bad now. But I kind of didn't really like the way they explain how Nick Fury got his eye patch and lost his eye. Now, this wasn't really some great mystery in the entire MCU. It was just kind of something you accepted. And Nick Fury has an eye patch. That's cool. They only alluded to it once in like the Winter Soldier when he says, "The last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye." So when we see Nick Fury is going to be having 2 eyes in this movie, everyone assumed, oh, he's going to lose his eye in this movie, probably due to a scroll, because, you know, they can shapeshift. The last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. Trusts a dude, loses his eye. Bam. Very simple. But they had like a close call with him losing his eye in the beginning with the whole car accident thing. I thought that was how they were going to do it, and everything else was just CG, so it looked like he had 2 eyes. That was obviously not true, but I hate the way he just lost his eye, was that Goose just scratched his eye. He lost his eye from a cat. Like this, and he says, "The last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. It was a cat, and they scratched my eye out." That was literally a joke everyone was making, like, haha, he trusts Goose in this trailer. He's gonna lose his eye to Goose. Oh my god, he lost his eye to Goose. Okay, this is more or less Marvel's equivalent of how Han Solo got the name Solo in Star Wars. Yeah, so that kind of sucks. But lastly, I just want to talk about something that I came up with, which is my theory for how Captain Marvel ties into Avengers Endgame. We see from the end credits scene that she will play a huge role in the movie, because it seems she appears early on. Like, there seems to be no time wasted, because I don't even think Ant-Man is with them yet. So she's certainly appearing early on, which I'm okay with. So we know that the Avengers will use the quantum realm in some capacity, because it has been said that they brought on like a physicist or a scientist person to help with the quantum realm, like making sense in real world. Although, to be fair, it doesn't really matter if it makes sense or not, because this is a comic book movie universe. Nothing really makes sense. So there's no reason that they would use the quantum realm so heavily in Ant-Man 2, bring in an advisor, and bring Scott into Endgame if they weren't going to use the quantum realm in some capacity in Avengers Endgame. So it was also said that Captain Marvel, the movie, would use the quantum realm in some capacity, but it's not actually mentioned in the movie at all, which I'm not angry at. It's just something I was expecting. However, we see that Carol's powers reach like an orange-yellow color when she acquires her full power level after breaking off from the Kree. So I believe that Carol has some connection to the quantum realm, and this isn't an original idea. I mean, I've seen this a lot. People are saying her powers draw on the quantum realm, so obviously that's not like the most original idea, but I think that Carol's connection to the quantum realm will be what allows the Avengers to travel through time or dimensions, whatever it ends up being. I think that she will use this connection probably to power like the quantum tunnel that Scott has, or power some portal or something. She's gonna power something with her powers. That made sense. That will allow the Avengers to bring back everyone who was dusted or undo Thanos' actions, whatever it ends up being in Avengers Endgame. And maybe because of this, she can't actually travel through to the different times or dimensions, so that lets her stay behind. And perhaps if Thanos starts trying to stop the Avengers from undoing his actions, then maybe Captain Marvel will be the one to stop Thanos from stopping the Avengers. Or maybe she's left on Earth to fend off any alien invasions that would come to Earth for some reason. That I just came up with. So whatever it may be, Captain Marvel will certainly play a big role in Avengers Endgame. And after seeing her solo movie, I am actually a fan of this character now, and I am more excited than ever to see Endgame. I don't usually do Marvel videos on this channel, so please let me know if you would like to see me do more videos like this down in the comments, such as an expansion on the theory that I just mentioned, or you can join my Discord server or follow me on Twitter if you want to hear more of my thoughts on Captain Marvel and all the Marvel movies. And for more videos like this, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.